Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the USTC Network. My name is Jamie Lewis. Today, I was wanting to talk to you guys about lease purchase stuff. That's my most views I get on those videos, and I get a lot of questions about it because a lot of you guys are company drivers that are thinking about switching over, wanting your own truck, and so kind of want to talk over some of that kind of stuff now. The stuff I talk about is going to be my personal experience. I can't speak for everything and everybody else, but I can tell you my experiences. And if you've watched my videos before, my whole journey has been from a company driver to through lease purchase, two of them actually, um, and now owner operator with two trucks. So I do have some experience, but what worked for me technically doesn't mean it'll work for you. But I'll try to navigate, what worked for me, what I think is the better of the stuff you can get into, and we'll go from there. So if you are new to the channel, like I said, my name is Jamie. Started as a company driver at US Express. Quit for a time being, like 8 months or something. Figured I was going to get back into trucking, and then once I kind of figured out, I wanted to get back into trucking, I, started making a game plan. So I didn't want to just be a company driver. And if you do, that's fine. Not everybody wants to be a lease purchase and then an owner operator, etc., because it is a lot of responsibility. So once I figured out I was coming back, I figured out I want to own my own truck. And so, kind of I had to figure out how I wanted to do that. And so the three ways you can do that are a lease purchase through a carrier. Yeah, you lease one of their used trucks, et cetera, which I'll get into more detail of these three things later on. Number two is you do a lease purchase through a actual lease purchase company. Excuse me. Number three is you buy your truck out from the dealership. I didn't have enough money for down payment and all the other stuff, etc. So I went with lease purchase program. The first one I went with was US Express's lease purchase program, which was kind of new at the time. It hadn't been out very long. And this is kind of when lease purchase programs started coming out a lot. So, I've been with US Express already for like 2 years or something before. And I was like, I always loved them. They treated me good, never had any issues, etc. So I was like, it should be okay. So once I figured all that out, I was like, okay, well, the best way to make the most money in trucking is teaming. And so I contacted my buddy of mine, which if you guys have watched other videos, his name's Rick. So me and Rick grew up together, and he'd been asking me before, because when I quit, I went and worked construction with my family's company, and he had always wanted to get away from his current job and get into a different career. And he asked me if I would get him into construction, and I told him, I wasn't going to do that to him. So once I figured out I was coming back trucking, I contacted him and said, hey, I'm going back in the trucking. I want to do this. Do you want to come on this journey? And he was like, heck yeah. So talked him through of him getting his CDL, which he went to school in Chattanooga. He got a loan through the school, yada, 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 got a CDL. And then while I was waiting on him, I went ahead and became a trainer for US Express while I had already started the lease purchase program while I was waiting. And so once he got his CDL and got onto US Express onto the truck, I was his trainer. And that way, he can just start out with me, and he didn't learn any bad habits, yada, yada, yada. So we do the lease purchase program for US Express for, I think it was like 4 months, and it just wasn't the greatest. And some people do fine with it, some people don't. But for a team, it was not the greatest. Solo might have been fine. I don't know. I can't speak on that. But for the team, they weren't. It wasn't producing enough money for both of us to live off of, etc. You know, and so once we started, we were struggling after those 4 months. I went home one day. I was like, there has to be something better out here. And so I got to looking around. And so US Express Lease Purchase Program, you get one of their used trucks. Most of the time, it's going to have 3 to 400,000 miles on it, maybe 5. And the prices for those go up and down depending on that. And so I think ours had like 460,000 miles or something like that on it already. And I think it was a 2-year program, or no, it was 4-year program. That being said, so that going that route, by the time you get done that program, that truck's going to have 800,000 for teaming. It would have had over 1 million miles, or at 1 million miles, most likely. And so at that point, that truck would have been useless. It would have had to been rebuilt, most likely before then. But it definitely would. After that program, it would have had to been rebuilt. That's an end frames, 20,000. So I got to went home. I was like, there has to be something better out there. So got to doing some research, and I found TEL, TEL. Don't ask me what it stands for. I cannot remember. It's something equipment leasing, transportation equipment leasing, or something like that. So got in contact with them, seen that they do leasing. Asked them, how long, payments, etc. So we were teaming. So their payments for a brand new truck were the same as US Express's were, and it was 2 years less. Granted, TEL has a balloon payment. In my experience, you're going to have a balloon for any, especially new truck. If you're doing a new lease, a new truck, if you're not doing the whole payment amount, you're going to have a balloon payment. Now, what's great with TEL is they help you get a loan for the balloon payment, and their downtime. They have a downtime plan and a maintenance plan. Well, you get both of those back. Me and Rick got both of ours back. It was like $30,000 or something like that, and so we got that back. So I can say that it was awesome. They do great with that program, and so if you're scared of that, you do get that back, and you have the option, which most time you have to, you use some of that as a down payment for the balloon payment, because it's a loan, so you're gonna have to have down payment for it. Well, as long as you play your cards right and everything, and you're saving enough money into your maintenance account, you'll have plenty for the down payment plus maintenance when you get on your own. And that works out great. Excuse me. So, and it worked out flawlessly. We went to, so we found TEL, and at first I was going to go do USA Trucking, because I wanted to get a feel for load boards and booking your own loads, etc. And so contacted TEL, and they were like, you being a team, like, USA may not be the best thing for teams. And so I did a little bit more research, watched YouTube videos on USA for teams, yada yada, and it was hit or miss. It was kind of up and down. So I was like, so I asked TEL, okay, what? So they have 3 companies: USA, Covenant, and there's one more. I can't remember what it is. Maybe 4, something like that. And okay, what companies do you guys deal with that has the best for teams? And they told us Covenant. And so we went with Covenant, and Covenant was great for lease purchase with team. We both brought home usually about 2,000 after all expenses. We both brought home about 2,000 a week, especially on the the Estes account, a Wildcat. We were doing Wildcat Estes account. We were out 3 weeks at a time. We'd come home for 4, 5 days, something like that, 6 days, something like that, and we go back out for 3 weeks. And we were making a killing. Never had any issues with freight. Majority of the time, there was a couple of times we had to sit, a day or so, but most of the time Estes kept us rolling pretty good. But yeah, the 2 years ended. If you watch videos, Rick went and did day cab and stuff. I got the truck, got the balloon payment, and so I've been out here ever since. And then eventually got another truck, and then eventually got another truck. So I had 3, and then one went down. The first one I got, the Freightliner went down. But yeah, so in my experience, you're not going to find a reputable lease purchase program, especially with a new truck or newer trucks, without having a balloon payment. But do your due diligence and make sure those companies are reputable. Tel's pretty big now, especially they've been doing a lot of lease purchase. I'm sure there's several videos out there. I've been doing the videos I did them for the whole 2 years we were with them. Their breakdown department is excellent. Never had any issues out of them. Calling to talk to somebody if you're having any issues. Never had any issues out of them. I can't give Tel more praise than that. The truck was great. Never had any really issues out of the truck. So that's really your only options for lease purchase is those 2 programs. Either A, you're going through a company, or B, you're going through a lease company that has a balloon payment most of the time. Now, solo, if you're doing solo, and you can do solo through Tel, they have solo stuff. I don't know the payment, and I don't know the terms for the solo. I think solo's 4-year. I do believe, I could be wrong, but I do believe it's 4-year for solo. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. But if you're thinking about doing lease purchase, just make sure you do your due diligence, do some research, ask around, etc. Don't be afraid to ask people questions. And before you call those lease purchase programs, make sure you're writing down questions to ask, because if you're not, you're going to forget something, and it could be really important. So always write down stuff. And then, like I said, ask YouTubers. For me, usually I reply to comments within an hour. And most YouTubers should do the same. You can also reach me, email, sorry. You also reach me at email, ustcrecruiting@gmail.com. I'll always reply. I'll give you my best advice. And then, if we talk for a little while, I'll give you my phone number. We can talk on the phone, and I can give you advice that way too. I think that's pretty much about it. I would say if you're doing a lease purchase, save a little money. Try to save a little money as a cushion, to help if you have a slow week, or especially getting started, because it might take a week or so to get up and rolling and really making some money. I would just save up some money, and then I'll do another video on going from lease purchase to owner operator. I think I've done one before. I could be wrong, but yeah. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you guys later.